Alrighty, welcome back to another Resident Evil video. In this video, I'm going to be talking about my top 10 favorite Resident Evil locations, settings, and what I like about them, from the atmosphere, what you do, who you meet, those kind of things. Resident Evil is loaded up with a lot of great locations. Pretty much every game has at least one good location, because you're not always just in one spot. You usually move around and go to different settings. So here are my top 10 favorite locations. We'll start with number 10. So let's get it started. Alright, to start off this list is going to be Langchang, China from Resident Evil 6. I really did like this location. It was a lot like Raccoon City from Resident Evil 3, where you didn't have a structure location, but rather just being in China itself was the location, and you were just constantly moving. You start off, depending on who you play as, for example, in Leon's campaign, you start off flying right into China on a commercial air flight, or rather a private jet, and then you crash land, and that's how you get to China. So there's multiple ways in which you get into China, but regardless, the location was pretty fun. You had the four different stores when you count Ada, and so much was just going on in this city, from the Javo to the zombies to Simmons, Carla. All sort of fun stuff was going on in the city, and it's just so chaotic. You got so much insanity going on, from just zombies and destruction, C-virus gas missiles going off. All sort of crazy things are happening in this city, and I enjoyed it. It was a whole lot of fun, and it felt like Raccoon City, just as I said. And Eustanak in this game, or however you say its name, that thing's an interesting enemy that Jake and Sherry have to face. So, I mean, what's not to love about this city? I know Resident Evil 6 is not the most popular game out there. I, for one, enjoy it. I think it's a good game. I liked it more than 5 and 7 by a lot, honestly. And this location was a good one because of just the amount of stuff that goes on in it, the chaos, and it had good cutscenes, it had good moments. If you're a fan of classic Resident Evil, you got some throwbacks. I mean, the city itself is obviously, a throwback to Raccoon City. Then you've got Leon and Ada have their little kiss like they had in Resident Evil 2. So, lots of good stuff in this city that happens. And it's just a lot that happens in this city. I mean, this is by far the most chaotic environment that we've had in a Resident Evil game. Yes, it is very action-packed, but it's still enjoyable. And the city, it had so much detail to it, and adventure and fun, that I enjoyed it. I thought it was a good one, and I think the game itself deserves more credit than it gets, but regardless, the location being in China was still good, and I think that Ada's campaign was fun. I like Carla as an enemy and exploring that whole thing, and just the multitude of locations that you go through, being Chris, Leon, Ada, and Sherry's campaigns. Those 4 campaigns, you go through a whole bunch of places throughout China. I mean, Jake and Sherry, they're in like this secret lab area when they get kidnapped that you explore, and that's awesome. So there's just a whole lot about this city, and there's a lot of areas that you go through that are just really fun, and that's why this list starts off with this China location. It's because there's just so much to it. The cutscenes were fun. I mean, you got that train scene with Simmons. I love that train fight. The T-Rex fight, and pretty much any fight with Simmons was great. And then there's the underground water lab that you have with Chris and Pierce when you have to save Jake and Sherry. That right there was a fun part in the game as well, because Hayos is a freaking crazy BOW that you gotta take down, and then we unfortunately lose Pierce before he could even develop as a character, but the whole China location was a good one. Unfortunately, because it's in Resident Evil 6, it gets, mistreated, but that's number 10. Let's move on to number 9. Alright, so at number 9 for me on this list is the sewer in Resident Evil 2. I absolutely loved the sewer area. It was fun. The first attempt to escape Raccoon City. And what do? We do what Ben, the news reporter, tells us to do. Go in the manhole and you'll find a back way out through the sewers. The sewer was just really fun because its only real weakness, in my opinion, and the only reason it's down so low on this list at number 9, is that it wasn't long enough. I hate that the sewer wasn't that long, and I'm really hoping that Resident Evil 2 Remake extends this location and gives us more of the sewer, because I want to explore more of it. I want it to be longer. I want there to be more to it. So hopefully the remake delivers on that. That being said, even though it wasn't that long, it was still packed full of a lot of content that did go down. For example, Leon gets shot. Ada meets Annette Birkin. They have their little conversation and then their little fight. You fight a giant crocodile or alligator, whichever one it is. And Sherry gets infected by William Birkin with the G virus, which is where her regenerative abilities come in Resident Evil 6. You get all sorts of fun little things in this. You get that iconic flashback with Hunk and his USS members going to get the G virus from William Birkin, and you get to learn how Raccoon City became infected with the T virus. So you learn a lot in the sewer. Even though it's short, you learn a lot, and it's a very fun area to explore. You got the zombies, you got the spiders. I can't remember if there's lickers in the sewer. I know they're in the lab because it's like a mutated hybrid version of the licker, but I can't recall if there are lickers in the sewer. But regardless, the sewer has got plenty of creatures in it to keep it interesting. And you also got I think you play as Sherry in the sewer. But even the look and the design of the sewers, I like that you have to have that wheel to lower that little bridge area so that you can go across to get around to fight the alligator. I like that, it's a simple area. It's not like it's super complex because it's a sewer, but there's still some interesting puzzles in there. I just hope that, like I said, the remake extends on what the sewer brought us so that we can enjoy it even more so. I mean, I think that cutscene with William Birkin is probably one of my favorite cutscenes in the game, just because you get to see how Raccoon City was infected through the rats feasting on the infecting. The rats were feasting on the USS members that were infected with the T virus. So I don't know, I always like that about it, and I guess that's pretty much all there is to really say. Since it is so short, there isn't like a whole bunch that you can say about it, but like I said, the things that I did say, they're big things that happen in that whole span of, I don't know, maybe 30 minutes, maybe the sewer's that long, but you got a whole lot of stuff to go down with. So I'm looking forward to seeing this again in the remake. Can't wait. 6 more days, just 6 more days, and then we get to see the sewer in its remastered, remade glory. But as of now, and who knows, maybe with the remake, the sewer will go up higher on my list, since right now it sits at 9. But I don't know, the original version's just got so much nostalgia to it. So who knows, but as of now, it's at number 9. Now, let's go check out who number 8 is on my list. Alright, So at number 8, we've got the secret lab from Resident Evil 2. Now, I like this secret lab area. It was a very fun way to close off the great game that is Resident Evil 2. In this lab, you've got all kinds of little areas that you explore. You explore the testing area where they would do tests. You explore some weird area where there was eggs. I never really figured that out much. I kind of just walked past it. But yeah, there's like an area with eggs. There's a mutated liquor in this lab. You've got an area where there's like a lava pit room that you knock Mr. X down in. All kinds of cool stuff goes on in the lab area. Annette Birkin, you know, you fight her a couple times, or you meet her a couple times. You don't really fight her, but you meet her. And she meets her demise to William Birkin. You've got the iconic moment between Leon and Ada, where Leon is holding her in his arms as she slowly is about to die after getting slammed into a machine by Mr. X, to which they then kiss. He yells out Ada, and then we go on our adventure, and we don't see her again until she throws us a grenade launcher mysteriously, as she is nothing more than a shadowy figure with only her voice to be recognized. So lots of things about the lab that are iconic, fun, and enjoyable. The only thing I would say I didn't enjoy about it was a little too short, and I kind of wish that there was a little more to it, because it does go by kind of quick. Not as quick as the sewer, but it does go by quickly. Hopefully the Resident Evil 2 remake, which is coming out in 6 days now, can't wait, hopefully that will add on to this already really cool area, which is the secret lab of Resident Evil. And you know, one thing that I liked about it was just the many different pathways that you can take, because I think there was like 4 different directions. One leads to the elevator that you're in, the other leads to the back room with the train that you exit out of, and then there's a couple other areas in there, but there's just so many little paths, and the A-B scenarios give you so many different cutscenes within this game that it's really fun. So I like the underground lab, or I don't think this is underground. I know the one in Resident Evil 1 was underground, but I don't think this one was. It was just a secret lab. But I do enjoy this. It is very fun and enjoyable. Not quite as iconic as the police station, since when anybody thinks of Resident Evil 2, odds are you're going to think of the police station, but I would say this is a very close second as far as location goes, and I think that is also in part to the fact that the sewer isn't as long. It's not as long as the lab is, but not by a lot, because they're both pretty cut short. You know, I kind of wish they would both be longer. And again, hopefully the remake will extend on their playthrough time, and we actually will get to enjoy both those locations more so. But I got this at number 8, and I think that's about all there is to say about this, is that it's got so much going for it. I think, yeah, you got that really fun William Birkin fight where he like mutates into it's either his 3rd or 4th form, where he's jumping around and he's jumping on top of tanks and platforms and everything, and that was a very fun fight. And then you got your other fight with him, his 2nd form, where you're going down the elevator to enter the lab area, and you have to fight him, and then depending on that ending, you know, William Birkin will jump away. So you got multiple fights with William Birkin. Oh, and another neat thing about this lab is it makes a reappearance in Resident Evil 0. You actually get to see part of this lab in Resident Evil 0 whenever you play, well, I guess it's either Billy or Rebecca, since they share the same campaign. But yeah, you get to explore part of this lab again. So it's a really cool location, and that's why I've got it at number 8. And let's now move on to number 7. Alright, so at number 7 we have the train from Resident Evil 0. I love this location. I love this setting. It is by far the best part of Resident Evil 0 in my opinion, because the train was so unique and fun to explore. Whereas once you get to the Spencer's Mansion, or not the Spencer's Mansion, but the Spencer's Mansion's twin brother, the training facility, it feels just like that. It feels like the Spencer Mansion. There's nothing really unique about it. We've done this before in Resident Evil 1. But the train was a completely new thing. It was unique. It was fun, original. Everything about it was great. And it worked perfect for survival horror. It was just like the Queen Zenobia in Resident Evil Revelations, only on a train. But unfortunately, unlike the Queen Zenobia, the train did not get to be the main focal point or the main, location for Resident Evil 0. But it worked the same way. I mean, I like the tight corridor of the train where you can only go up or down. You can't go left or right because those are walls. It's literally, you can only go up the train or down the train. There's no other option. So I love that. It's a tight spaced location with not much wiggle room at all. And it's full of just a bunch of craziness. I mean, you got zombie dogs come in there at one point in the game. You've got the leech monsters, of course. Zombies are in there. A giant scorpion. I mean, there's all sorts of just neat monsters within just the train. And so I think it would have been interesting if this could have been the complete focal point of the game, where you're on a train and your whole mission objective is to try and get off this train, and then have fun with that, enjoy that, and see how that goes. That is what I would have liked. Just make the train longer, have more compartments, have more areas, give us more secret areas within the train. But other than that, the train we got was amazing and great. And Resident Evil 0, it's a bit underrated, but I understand why. The whole switching back and forth with characters and everything can get a little, annoying and all that. But really, in the train setting, it worked fine because the train wasn't so big and so wide and had so many directions. Like I said, it's only up and down. There aren't a million different directions. So it worked good for that mechanic with Billy and Rebecca. So I do think if the train had been the whole focal point, Resident Evil 0 would have been appreciated a lot more so, because the switching back and forth between characters would have worked better within the train in that smaller setting as opposed to the training facility. But the train has got everything that you could ever want. It starts off slow paced. You're exploring, trying to figure things out. You're just kind of walking around trying to solve puzzles and whatnot, like a classic Resident Evil. And then the end of it gets intense, because now it's like you've got to stop the train before it crashes, and it becomes this intense countdown where you only have so much time to do it right. And if you don't, you're going to crash. And to make things worse, you got zombies coming out. So now you got to watch out for zombies and just all this other stuff. So it goes from slow paced to intensity. It's basically it's like a whole Resident Evil game, like the Spencer's Mansion, where it starts off slow, but then at the end the self-destruct is going to go off, so you got to get out of the mansion. That's what the train is. It's a quick summary of that, a quick version of that, and I love every bit of it. So the train is easily number 7 for me because of that, and it's got good boss fights. I mean, the Scorpion was an interesting one, so I enjoyed that. But even aside from just the boss fight, just the setting itself was great. And I hope we get another train someday. I hope we do get to explore another train, because we've done the city again. We've done the house. We've explored like a mansion house type thing several times. Give me another train. So that's what I got. I got the Resident Evil 0 train sitting at number 7. So let's move on to number 6. Alright, so at number 6, we have the iconic Resident Evil 4 Village. The village is a very well-known location, as it is in Resident Evil 4, probably still to this day the fan favorite Resident Evil game. Even though for me it's the third best in the series, it is still a definitive fan favorite. And so you know the village is going to be up there. I'm putting it at number 6. I think it is a interesting location within Resident Evil. The atmosphere was fun, but I really do like the characters that you meet. You meet Luis Serra, you meet Chief Minzy, you briefly get a Ada Wong tease, and you meet Sadler on the island, Ashley on the, like, you meet a lot of the characters on the island. You meet, and you have a lot of good boss fights. The El Jante, or whatever, however you say it, the massive fish monster that I can't think of the name of right now, and Chief Minzy, of course. So you have really good boss fights in the game, and then on top of that, just the feel of it. I mean, the village starts off in the daytime, but then by the time you get out of the village, it's night. So that's pretty interesting and cool. So I really do like the village for all those things. The music tone was nice. It was very slow paced. And so you gotta love the village in Resident Evil 4. It's iconic. It's very well known. It's probably the staple, location that a lot of fans think of when they think of Resident Evil 4. It's probably the village that they think of most, because I mean that's where you start. So I do absolutely love this location, and I've got to put it at number 6. It's crazy. As great as this location is, it's only at number 6 because there's obviously 5 more that I think are better than this one. And I think most people would agree with that. I mean, this is a good location, but it's not the best. So let's move on to number 5, shall we? Alright, at number 5, we have Raccoon City. This is easily one of the most iconic locations in Resident Evil, as it is the city that was infected with the T-virus in 1998, and pretty much what kicked off all of Resident Evil. This is what caused Umbrella to go down. This is what caused all the future titles to have what happened with the whole bioterrorism. But Resident Evil's Raccoon City is such a freaking cool location. It's iconic, and it's got so many memorable things about it, like Nemesis. Nemesis is by far one of the most iconic enemies, and Raccoon City is home to a lot of other iconic locations, like the police station, the underground lab, the sewer. Basically every iconic location in Resident Evil 3 is home, or Resident Evil 2 is home to Raccoon City. And I love Raccoon City because it's a city infested with zombies, hunters, lickers, all sort of things, and what's not to love about that? And it's made so many appearances, like in Umbrella Corps. I think Operation Raccoon City, it's in Operation Raccoon City, of course, but I think it might also be in Umbrella Corps, and it's also, of course, in Resident Evil 2, along with a few other games. So it's in several games, and it just looks so good. I like the camera angles that Resident Evil 3 offered it, getting to see the city from multiple camera views, and it was a fun game, or not game, but a fun location to explore, because Resident Evil 3 is the game that does it the most justice, because that's the game that is centered around it, and you get to explore it the most in that game. Because unlike Resident Evil 1 and 2, where you're in a set location, Resident Evil 3, it takes place within the city, and you just go through places like a hospital, a clock tower, a diner, etc. And so you got to really get a good feel of Resident Evil Raccoon City. So for me, Raccoon City is easily a top 5. Now let's move on to number 4. Alright, for my number 4 pick of my favorite locations of Resident Evil, it has to go to the Queen Zenobia. This was an awesome location. And what made Resident Evil Revelations such a good game was this location. Outside of the playthroughs of when you're playing in the Spencer Mansion as Jill, whenever you play as Chris or whoever, it's not as good. Or when you're Parker in the flashback to the city of Terra Grigia, those aren't as good of, those aren't the strong points of the game. It's when you're in this Queen Zenobia. This ship is just so fun, and it feels so much like the Spencer Mansion. Like, it's such a good, fun location with great enemies. Rachel being one of my favorite all-time enemies within the franchise. I love the design of Rachel. She reminds me a lot of Lisa Trevor, for example. So there's a lot of similarities between this game and, or this ship rather, and the Spencer Mansion, and I like that. And it's just fun. It's got a casino in it. It's got dark, eerie locations in it, and it's just so many cool little areas to it. Little cabin areas, bedrooms, bathrooms, and it's just, everything about it was exciting and fun. You get to the end of it and you got to go all the way down into the bottom of the ship, all the way up to the top. I mean, you explore every last angle of this ship, and it's fun. It's got its tense moments, it's got its action-packed moments, and it's just a very well-balanced location. And unfortunately, I don't think it gets enough glory, and I think it kind of is underrated for other locations, but it's easily a top 5 location for me. I enjoyed it a lot, and I love Revelations a lot. I think it's one of the better games, but this location, I also liked the comms officer. He was a creepy sounding enemy within the game. So, like I said, this game had a bunch of, or not the game, but this location had a lot of fun enemies and just fun rooms. I really do like these rooms, like the casino, for example. The casino is a fun, cool room to go into and explore, as was the bilge, I believe is what it's called, the lowest part of the ship. I absolutely love that area because that's where you meet Rachel, and it is the scariest part of the game because it's always dark down there. And so I absolutely love that area. So the Queen Zenobia, I don't know how you couldn't love it because it's so, and then the sister ship that Chris goes into, it has that whole throw you off thing because you think you're in the Queen Zenobia, but you're not. You're in the sister ship. So there's a lot to love about this location. Unfortunately, like I said, doesn't get as much glory as I think it should, but still a great freaking location, and definitely top 5 in my book. But let us move on to number 3. Alright, so at number 3 on my list of favorite Resident Evil locations is the Salazar Castle. I love the Salazar Castle in Resident Evil 4. It had so much to enjoy. I mean, the setting is just awesome. It's a freaking castle, for crying out loud. But on top of that, just everything from the locations, like the lava room and the room where you fight that I can't think of the name of it right now, the Gador or whatever, the blind enemy. I can't think of its name right now. And even Salazar, he was my favorite main villain out of the 3 main guys for each location. I like Salazar the most and his interactions that he has with Leon. But you get to fight the butler and just all the cool little traps that are in the game. I like the scene where you play as Ashley and the little knights in armor come after you. The castle is a freaking awesome game, or location rather, and the music in it was also equally as great. So I think that the castle was probably should have been longer. That's my only complaint about it, was I wish it was a longer portion of the game. but I absolutely loved it. I loved, the what is it that I'm thinking of here? The maze. I love the maze that you explore. I love the fact that you meet Ada Wong. If you're a Resident Evil 2 fan, you meet Ada in this game, in the castle. You haven't seen her since Resident Evil 2. So there's so much about it that I like and enjoy. Not to mention, I think there's an area where in the castle you fight two of the El Jantes or whatever. But that's like in the mining area. But regardless, the castle was just really fun. And a whole lot more fun than the village that you have to go to later on. To me, the castle is the definitive Resident Evil 4 location. Although some may argue and say it's the village. I think it's the castle. And that's why, for me, it sits at number 3. Now, let's move on to what I would say is the number 2 best location in all of Resident Evil. Let's make way for number 2. Of the police station in Resident Evil 2. It has such a freaking awesome setting to it because it's so mysterious to be a police station. I mean, it's got crazy puzzles in it that you wouldn't normally have in a police station, like Chief Brian Iron's office. You have to have these 3 cubes to open up a secret department to go into his torture chamber. And the library, you gotta like move things around throughout the library to get this fuse or whatever. I mean, there's just so many weird puzzles and just so many crazy things that I love about the police station in Resident Evil 2. Now, I don't know what the remake is going to bring us and how that one's going to hold up to the original, but regardless, the police station in Resident Evil 2 is easily my favorite, or not my favorite, but easily one of my favorites. And so it sits at number 2 for me because it's just so iconic and just such a fun area to go into. I've beaten Resident Evil 2 so many times, but even after beating it, I'll find myself just kind of walking around the police station just to enjoy it, just to have fun, because I love it that much. And it had so much fun detail to it. You walk around, there's vending machines, there's ceiling fans that are going on. Like if you go in one of the rooms, there's an office, and if you don't make any noise, you can hear the ceiling fan move around. I mean, there's just fun details like that. And the soundtrack is amazing. Like the main hall theme, which is what I'm playing in the background right now, it's iconic. And my personal favorite soundtrack in Resident Evil 2 is probably the library theme, which I absolutely love. It's mysterious. And so Resident Evil 2's police station has such good music, and the whole thing is just a mystery. It's fun, and the characters that you meet within that police station are also awesome. But as far as, and not to mention, you meet the liquor in the police station, which is my favorite, monster, like basic monster. So what's not to love? Not to mention you also run into William Birkin, so you meet my favorite boss also. So the police station has so many things about it that I love. Cannot wait to see this game remastered so that we can experience the police station once again, because I'm looking so forward to that. I can't imagine how and what it's going to look like in its full glory. I mean, we got to play the demo. That was great, but man, can I not wait to explore more areas and see more of this wonderful location that is the Raccoon City Police Department and the many wonders in which it holds. Because the original, it's sitting at number 2, but when that remake comes out, who knows, maybe this awesome location can jump up to that number 1 spot. But it's going to be tough. It will not be easy. For nostalgia is a strong thing, but even without nostalgia, I mean, these locations are just great. I mean, you can't argue that, really. But anyways, this is number 2. Now let's move on to the number 1 best location, or my favorite location, in Resident Evil. Alright, at number 1 on the list is the iconic Spencer Mansion from Resident Evil 1. This is by far the best location in Resident Evil, at least in my opinion, but I don't see how you can't say this isn't the best. I mean, it's just so flawless. I mean, the art style of it, the color pattern, the color palette, everything about this mansion is just so iconic. Whenever you think of Resident Evil, odds are you're going to think of the Spencer Mansion as one of the top 2 or 3 places on average. It's just so good. Everything about it. The rooms are all creepy, dark, and they're all unique rooms. They're all fantastic rooms, from a dining room to the closets. I mean, every little thing is awesome. And just the craziness of it. I mean, you've got normal stuff like dining rooms and stuff, and then you've got weird rooms with like dolls in it where Lisa Trevor hangs out. This whole mansion is just incredible, and I love its art style. I love everything about it, from just the many rooms that you go into and you get to explore, the just old style that it has to it, and just the abandoned. I mean, this mansion spews out survival horror. Like, it speaks survival horror. This is like not just the most iconic Resident Evil location. This is probably one of the most iconic survival horror locations. It's so freaking awesome. And although the original version of this mansion is great and I love it, the remake version is where it's at. The remake version of this mansion is just so good. And I would honestly love to see a real life version of this mansion get built one day, and somebody actually build the Spencer Mansion in real life, because I would so go see that. I love every last bit of this because there's just so much to it that's so unique. I mean, just insane secrets and tunnels and traps and all sorts of stuff. And so it's just such a good location, and it has so many memorable things about it. So many memorable bosses like Yawn, Plant 42, Lisa Trevor. There's just so many unique monsters in it. I mean, the Crimson Heads, everything about the Spencer Mansion is perfect. There's nothing not perfect about it. And so it is easily, without question, my number 1. That is it for this episode. That is my top 10 for the best, or for my favorite Resident Evil locations. Spencer Mansion, easily the number 1, just because of everything about it. It just is the definitive location for a survival horror game, and the blueprint. Now, Resident Evil 2 Remake, when that comes out and we get to play that, who knows, maybe, just maybe, my number 2 being the police station might jump up. It might jump up, but I don't know. That's going to be a tough one, even if Resident Evil 2 Remake is just flawless like this remake. Even if it is flawless, I don't know if it's going to be able to top the Spencer Mansion. That's a very, very tall order, just because of so many details this game had, and nostalgia. I'm not going to lie, my nostalgia will probably blind me, and I will forever have this game at number 1 because I just love everything about it, from the aquarium to the cabin to the woods to the residence area where Plant 42 is. Every last detail of the Spencer Mansion is just flawless. But I want to end this episode here, and I will see you all in the next one. See you then.